We're here for Publishers Weekly and TeeBeeDee.com talking about your new book, Boomsday, in which you put forth a very modest proposal.
The modest proposal of Cassandra Devine, the 29-year-old heroine of Boomsday, is that the government has refused to do anything about the looming Social Security crisis, so it ought to incentivize suicide for aging baby boomers.
But she has a little bit of a personal reason for this. She's mad personally.
She has a very personal reason. In her teens, she worked very hard. She got into Yale, very good school. Don't you think so?
I've heard that,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. And it turned out her father had spent her college tuition money on a .com startup, not at all like TeeBeeDee.
Right.
And so she ends up with the U.S. Army in Bosnia.
Right, because the startup goes
The startup goes south, unlike this startup, which I feel is going to be huge.
What was the inspiration for this character?
Paying next month's mortgage was the inspiration. I'm frequently asked, Sarah,
you know, you've said
where
that
do you
before.
get your inspiration? I say, from Washington Mutual,
Right.
which owns my house. But it is in fact a problem. I have two children, 19 and 15, and they're not the problem. It's the Social Security's the problem. Right. And you know, that makes fiscal crises sort of tangible. I mean, my children are going to be paying for my retirement. The government has, basically refused to do anything. We've made it very impossible. We've made it very hard for politicians to do anything about Social Security, because the moment one of them says, well, maybe we ought to raise the retirement age to 63, then these lobbies pounce and say, you hate old people.
What do you see happening to our generation? I mean, in the next 10 or 20 years? I mean, in terms of work, in terms of health, in terms of standing in the world. I mean, we had our baby boomer president. We've
had two baby boomer presidents. Mr. Bush was also born in
Correct.
1946.
Same year, right?
He will be retiring in 2008, an event I think some people are looking forward to. But so will the first boomers when they turn 62.
Right.
And that's when this Social Security thing starts to get interesting.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about what it is to be our age, to be boomers.
Well, I'm 54. I was born in 1952, and I'm old-fashioned. I still watch the evening news, the networks, and generally while I cook dinner, as you can see from my waistline. And I came to the horrible realization within the last year that all the ads on the evening network news are now directed at me. And that's not such a flattering
for
thing.
example?
Well, like for Gas X or
Right.
toenail fungus, although I do not have toenail fungus. I wish this to be perfectly clear. And something called restless leg syndrome, which I didn't even know existed. but anyway, so I guess I hear the pitter-patter of the slippered feet of the Grim Reaper approaching.
Okay, well, let's do a little James Lipton thing, and I'm going to say a word to you, and I've got a couple here. I'm going to say a word to you, and you say the first thing that comes into your mind.
All right. Uh-oh.
Okay. Boomer.
Boomsday.
A little self-referential, are we? Okay. Retirement.
Golf. I'm not a golfer either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sex over 50.
Fun. Slow, but fun.
Women over 50.
Stradivarius.
Last question. We got a stat that 80% of people in the boomer generation believe that they have a book in them.
Oh, dear.
Right. I thought it was a little low, actually. I thought it would have been higher.
Someone once said, there's a famous saying, and you'll recognize it, that everyone has a book in him or her, and that's really the best place to keep it.
And that's where it should stay. No.
Leave the writing to the professionals. Sarah, I always say, kids, don't try this at home.